Good evening. It is now 6:01 p.m. I would like to call this meeting to order. Can I call on Mr. Allington to lead us in the flag salute?
Good evening, Madam President. Thank you very much. Will everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Allington. May I see who is present? Vice President Ramirez?
Present.
Clerk Cabrera?
Present.
Board Member Magaña?
Present.
Board Member Uribe?
Present.
And I'm present myself. May I have a motion to approve the minutes? Motion?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, Vice President Ramirez?
Aye.
Clerk Cabrera?
Aye.
Board Member Magaña?
Aye.
Board Member Uribe?
Aye.
And an aye for me as well. That motion is carried. At this time, I would like to call on legal counsel.
Yes, thank you, President Gutierrez. At this time, I will be making the announcement regarding public comment for tonight's meeting. For members of the public who may wish to provide public comment in real time during tonight's meeting, we direct you to the instructions under item number 5 on tonight's agenda. Please ensure to provide public comment at the designated time for public comment by dialing 323-887-7900 extension 2494, or by clicking the raise hand button on the Zoom application, or dial *9 to raise your hand from a phone. If members of the public dial in telephonically and the line is busy or goes straight to voicemail, please hang up and try again. Public speakers may choose but need not identify themselves to the Board of Education. However, if any follow-ups may be required, providing contact information is encouraged. Accordingly, members of the public should be prepared to identify themselves, provide contact information, and the agenda matter they wish to address. Further, the board may limit the overall time of public comment to no more than 30 minutes or limit the time per speaker to 1 minute for purposes of efficiency to ensure the district can carry on with its business as agendized. Again, for further directions and information, please refer to item number 5 on tonight's agenda.
Thank you, legal counsel. Dr. Yuan, are there any modifications to tonight's agenda?
Good evening. Discussion and action item 6C should read public hearing, 6:30 p.m. preliminary budgets for 2022, 2023, 2023, 2024, and 2024, 2025 only. That is the action subject line for the board's consideration this evening, which was properly noticed. The additional language in this action item, approval of local control and accountability plan, LCAP, for the 22-23 was a clerical error and it's being deleted from this action item. Items 6C, 7E, 7G, and 9B1 have been revised. Copies have been provided to you and copies have been uploaded to the website for the public. Items 6E, 6F, 6H, 6I, and 9A5 have been provided to you and copies have been uploaded to the website for the public. And item 9A9 has been pulled from the agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Yuan. Is there a motion to approve the agenda with the modifications as indicated by Dr. Yuan?
Motion.
Is there a
Motion.
second? Is it okay if you second, Board Member Magaña?
Yes, second.
Okay, thank you. Let's do a roll call vote. Vice President Ramirez?
Aye.
Clerk Cabrera?
Aye.
Board Member Magaña?
Aye.
Board Member Uribe?
Aye.
And an aye for me as well. That motion is carried. At this time, we're going to look at item number 4, Los Angeles County Office of Education legal comments. I would like to call on Mr. Bill McGuire.
Something was in the way. No comments. Thanks.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. McGuire. Okay, next is item number 5, public comment. Legal counsel, do we have any written public comments?
Yes, thank you, President Gutierrez. We do have 5 written public comments. The first one, the subject matter is dual immersion program staffing at Bella Vista. Hello, Board President Gutierrez and board members. I am a parent of a 3rd grade dual immersion student at Bella Vista. I, along with other families, have chosen the school for what we felt provided a quality education in a Mandarin dual immersion academy. We were presented this program and a promise that this program will be sustained to prepare our students through high school. The parents of the Mandarin dual immersion program mostly make up our PTA board and have also been responsible for creating and implementing our after-school Dragon Juniors STEAM program, which has brought our school the Teacher of the Year Equitable Innovation Award with a $3,000 grant and the California Pivotal Practice Award. We are invested in this school and feel that MUSD is not invested in this program. Although sustaining this program is difficult and not easy, we thought MUSD was willing. Now that we are losing another quality Mandarin teacher, we are concerned once again about the sustainability of this program. If additional funds need to be spent to keep our teachers and to sponsor visas for our teachers, then it must be done. Our students are hurting by not having long-term teachers, and families are leaving our school because of this. This DIA program had attracted the same families that are bringing our school additional support through our PTA, and now we don't feel supported by you. We are pleading with you to take additional steps, spend the necessary money, and fully support this program. Losing our beloved 1st grade teacher, Ms. Chan, is a huge blow to Bella Vista. Please do whatever it takes to keep her. Thank you, Marlene Ramirez. The next written comment says for 6:15 meeting, to President Gutierrez, Superintendent Scavarna, and esteemed members of the board. I am a mother of 2 students in the Dual Immersion Academy at Bella Vista Elementary. It has been a joy to see my children not only succeed, but thrive in the program due to the hard work and caring of the teachers and staff involved at BVE. Therefore, it is of great concern to me that we have lost so many teachers in these beginning years of the program. Not only do we need to be attracting high quality teachers to our program each year to help it grow, we need to be doing all that we can to retain them. Our program has already lost 2 of our founding teachers, and in these beginning years, the program and the students need the stability and expertise of a long-term faculty to help it reach its full potential. Please pay attention to this very special program and ensure that teacher recruitment and retention are a priority. Sarah Lamb. The next comment is DIA program at Bella Vista. Dear President Gutierrez, members of the board, and Assistant Superintendent Hakopian, I'm writing today to express concern about staffing for the Dual Immersion Academy at Bella Vista Elementary. The Mandarin program is still new, with the inaugural class just heading to the 4th grade next fall. That means it needs support to establish a solid foundation from which to build upon. Last year, we only had 3 teachers, K-2, and lost 1, in addition to losing our new TOSA. This year, we only had 4 teachers and are losing 2. That turnover rate is alarming and gives the appearance that the district is not supporting or attempting to retain our Mandarin teachers. In particular, losing Ms. Chiang, our 1st grade teacher, is concerning because the current kinder class began the academic year with a long-term sub. I urge you to do everything possible to ensure that they do not begin 1st grade the same way. Moreover, I ask that you please consider teacher retention as part of your long-term strategy to create stability for the program. DIA families are frustrated that we need to express concern about staffing year after year. Sincerely, Adriana Ruiz Alvarado, BVE DIA parent. The next topic is also Bella Vista DIA. I am a Bella Vista Dual Immersion Academy parent. I'm writing to express my concern and frustration with the lack of support and communication within the DIA community. We don't hear from our principal, school, district, nor the board about our program, funding, and issues. We only find things out last minute and usually too late to make any changes. We don't feel our teachers, staffs, are getting adequate support to keep them here. We have lost our kinder DIA teacher, Mrs. Small, last year, and we're not able to find her replacement until school started after a month. Total 4 months time after her last day. Now we have learned we are losing our first grade DIA teacher, Ms. Chang, due to lack of visa sponsorship. And now our fourth grade teacher is leaving too. I wish there is more communication to the parents so we can express our views and feelings before things are too late. We want to be proactive and not reactive. I hope this comment show you that we all care for the success of DIA and we want to keep our teachers or find replacement as quickly as possible so this won't impact our kids' education and learning. Thank you for your attention, time, and support in this matter. Cindy Ang Yao, Bella Vista first grade DIA parent. The last written comment again is DIA at BVE. Hello, our names are Nathaniel and Abigail Lamb. We are in grades 3 and 1 and are in the dual immersion program at Bella Vista Elementary School. We are writing because we are upset that so many teachers are leaving the DIA program. We loved those teachers, enjoyed their classes, and we want other students to enjoy the classes too. We want you to help support our teachers and give them what they need so that they can stay and teach at our school. We need you to hire teachers on time as it is important to have the right teacher, not a substitute, teach at the beginning of the year. We deserve very good teachers to help us learn and can stay for a very long time. We have come to the conclusion that there are large problems with teachers leaving at our school. We know that you can solve this problem, so we urge you to do so. Sincerely, Nathaniel and Abigail Lamb. And that concludes the written public comments. Dr. Ewan, do we have any comments telephonically or in real time?
Yes, we have two telephonic ones. So let me start with Erica Estrada calling about charter schools. All right, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, board members and Montebello Unified District officials. My name is Erica Estrada, and I am MTA, Elementary Director-elect, and a teacher at Joseph Gascon Elementary, and I've been there for 22 years. I have 26 signatures of teachers, aides, community members at my school. And I will be emailing this to the board members. Joseph Gascon Elementary community demands that the Knowledge is Power program, KIPP, sees all interest in petitioning to co-locate at our campus. Co-locating at our school has made a huge negative impact to our program designed to give our students an enriching educational and learning experience. Will be losing many program space and just safety protocol procedures. Our speech therapist was moved under the flawed state law known as Prop 39. Neighborhood public schools can be forced to give away quote unquote unused space to charter operators. In reality, that unused space is not unused at all. It houses arts and music, classrooms and science centers and parent centers, PTA rooms that are now closed. And it contributes to a rich, vibrant educational program for our students. And just because a charter operator can locate does not mean that they should or have to. This invasion is a choice that charter schools make, a choice that hurts students in neighborhood public schools. We are urging you, board members, to listen to the voices of Joseph Gascon community members in taking action to halt the co-location KIPP, again, another 1 or 2 years at Joseph Gascon Elementary. We, the members of the members of Montebello board members we hope that you stand in solidarity with us. We are strongly opposed to this KIPP co-location and will organize effectively to protect the future of public schools of all students. There's parents that are seeking legal counsel. There's no way that KIPP should be asking to have exclusive access to restrooms in our school. So the question is, who is going to patrol for a kindergartner to be able to say, no, you cannot go to this restroom because it's now a kid restroom. That's what we're dealing with next year. It is not fair. This is a Jim Crow. We're heading that direction. Segregation. We're not going to stop. We are not happy with what's going on at our school. Our kids are hurting. Our teachers are very, very frustrated. And our students are frustrated. Our community is frustrated. We're not being able to speak out. We are not being heard. Thank you. There is some movement with board members in the community acknowledging that it is a disservice to our students. But I just want to let you guys know we are very disillusioned that instead of going to community day schools at another
All
location,
right, thank you. That was 3 minutes.
please, but we
Thank
will
you.
be continuing.
All right, next we have Christine Demas calling about school safety. Okay, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, President Gutierrez, board members, Superintendent Dr. Scarvana, Executive Cabinet, and public. My name is Christine Chavez Dimas. I'd like to take the time to invite you and the public to an important safety meeting. Tomorrow is the meeting. If you need to get more information, you can look it up on the SAVE MUSD Facebook page, and it'll give you the address and all the information that you will need regarding the event and the meeting. The guest speaker will be Montebello Unified School District Interim Superintendent, Dr. Scarvana. I hope Dr. Scarvana shares the events of the May 5th lockdown at Montebello High School. I'm still hearing different accounts as to what happened on that day. However, or whatever the reason, we do need to discuss this. And we need to discuss how the Montebello High School leaders were ready. The MUSD personnel locked down the students into classrooms. The Montebello PD and the Montebello Unified School District PD were called. The police officers did a sweep of the campus, and they also released one classroom at a time. When I heard that law enforcement was on the job, I knew that the safety of our students and teachers were paramount. Whatever the situation was that caused the lockdown, we have the best doing what they do best. It turned out that there was no immediate threat to teachers and students. All is well that ends well. Of course, we can speculate and say, what if? But let's just say MUSD personnel has been adequately trained to handle threats to our schools. Let's continue to stay vigilant because we can never be too ready. Thank you, Board of Education, for passing Emergency Resolution 41. It would be great if the public gets word when LACO finally approves this resolution. And thanks again to this. Mr. Ellingson, I called and left a message. Can you kindly call me back? I'll call tomorrow and leave my phone number. I appreciate your time. Lastly, has the board requested a schedule from the superintendent and business manager regarding the second rollout of the monies for Measure GS bond? It's always nice to see a schedule. Please remember the SICMAT report and investigation of the first $100 million. No funny business. Good night, everybody.
All right, that concludes the live call-ins. Looking in the participant panel, we do have two hands raised. So we'll first go to Elizabeth Kasharian.
Good evening. May I speak?
Yes, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Madam President, board members, executive cabinet, my name is Elizabeth Kacharian, and I'm a teacher at Bell Gardens High School. This evening, I want to stand in solidarity with my colleagues at Joe Gascon Elementary about the co-location of the KIPP Charter School. Madam Board President, I've recently read that you've given several offers to KIPP in order to please them. If I understand it correctly, we are offering them already our computer labs, our performing arts facilities, half of our playground, parking lot space, and even their own dedicated bathroom. Well, I recently learned that KIPP is a corporation, not a school, but a corporation with over $75 million in reserve funds. If KIPP Charter School requires so much dedicated space, the best financial decision for them would be to purchase their own campus rather than co-locate on our campuses. I believe that I read that KIPP did purchase a building, but that this building has tenants. Well, so does Joe Gascon Elementary. They have our students, and our students deserve to have the entire playground area where they shouldn't have to fight with KIPP staff in order to get a ball returned to them. They should have the whole entire area to play and to be a kid. And there should not be any Jim Crow era segregated restrooms or facilities that put physical barriers between groups of students. What is KIPP going to ask for next? Separate water fountains? You know, I think we can get a deal for them at the California African American Museum on some separate water fountain signs if that's what they need. Maybe they feel that our restrooms aren't good enough to share, right? But again, if that's their prerogative, perhaps they should find their own location where they don't have to share with any of our students. Our students deserve access to their own school, and our parents deserve their own parent center. We need to have a performing arts room because we all know that the arts are the gateway to learning mathematics and English. But most importantly, our students deserve to have safety and security and not have to worry that the unreasonable number of live campus visits will leave our campuses open to intruders. This is not acceptable. And if KIPP needs special treatment, then they need to find their own special campus. Please encourage them to do so. Finally, I ask that we return to live in-person board meetings, just like we have returned to live in-person instruction. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Good night.
All right, next we have Norma Gonzalez.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Norma Gonzalez. I am a special education teacher at Joseph Gascon Elementary. I would like to formally invite the board and the community to a rally for Joseph Gascon Elementary. Say no to KIPP. No to KIPP co-locations this Thursday, June 23rd, 3 p.m. And let's meet in front of LACO offices, 9300 Imperial Highway, Downey, California, since they love to approve charters when a district very, very, very openly does not want charter schools. Communities have said no to charter schools. Students, teachers are banding together to say no to more charter schools. Thank you.
And then next I see Deborah Ferguson. Mr. Chen, can you give the mic to Deborah Ferguson?
There we go. Thank you, Dr.
All
Yuan.
right, thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. More than enough time. I just wanted to give everyone a shout out as we've reached the end of what's been the most challenging year in my teaching profession. And just thank you for all you're doing. can often be a thankless job, and decisions have to be made that are not going to please everyone. If we just always remember to be student-centered focused, then that will help move us forward. And thank you for your honoring and being patient with my always carrying the banner for special ed. And finally, just a final shout out to our school secretaries that, in addition to the amazing job they do on the daily, taking on the burden of finding coverage for 15 to 20 classes per day because of the substitute shortage. So shout out Aurora and Blanca. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening.
All right, that concludes the hand raises in the participants panel. And I don't hear any more telephone rings on my end.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Yuen. We are going to move on to discussion and action items. We are going to consider item 6A, public notice, Montebello Unified School District initial sunshine proposal to the California School Employees Association, Chapter 505, for a successor contract 2022 through 2025 collective bargaining agreement negotiations. And I would like to call on Dr. Yuen.
Hi, good evening. So section 3457 of Article 8 of Chapter 10.7 of the California Government Code requires that the Board of Education adopt its initial proposal to employee organizations at a public meeting prior to the start of negotiations. Negotiations with the Montebello Unified School District will not take place on any of the proposals until reasonable amount of time has lapsed after their submission to enable the public to become informed and to allow the public the opportunity to express itself regarding the proposals at a meeting of the public school employer. A representative of the Montebello Unified School District herewith presents the board with the district's initial proposal for a successor contract 2022 to 2025 collective bargaining agreement, specifically Article 6, wages, Article 7, health and welfare benefits, and Article 10, rights and responsibilities. We are recommending the following motion: that the Board of Education acknowledges receipt of the attached initial proposal for a successor contract 22 to 25, specifically Articles 6, 7, and 10, and that the said proposal be acknowledged in the official minutes of June 15, 2020, and that the Board of Education invite public comment on the initial proposal at the Board of Education meeting on July 20, 2022.
Thank you, Dr. Yuen. Is there a motion to acknowledge receipt of this item?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I heard Clerk Cabrera. Roll call vote, Vice President Ramirez.
Aye.
Clerk Cabrera.
Aye.
Board Member Magaña.
Aye.
Board Member Uribe.
Aye.
And an aye for me as well. That motion is carried. At this time, we're going to consider item 6B, public hearing, 6:30 p.m. for local control and accountability plan, LCAP, and the annual update for 2022 and 2023. At this time, I declare the public hearing open. Dr. Yuen, is there a staff report on this item?
Yes, the Local Control and Accountability Plan, LCAP, is a 3-year plan that describes the goals, actions, services, and expenditures to support positive student outcomes that address state and local priorities. As part of the approval process, school districts must hold a public hearing for the LCAP on the same day that the district holds a public hearing for its budget. Tonight, Dr. Mooney will be providing an overview of the LCAP. Let me share my screen.
Excuse me really quick, Madam President. I have a question really quick. I don't see our interpreters, and I think this is important that they be here to translate this information.
I believe, is it Mario?
I believe Mario's in here right now.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I apologize.
All right, Dr. Mooney.
Thank you, Dr. Yuen, and thank you to Madam President, Board, Cabinet, and members of the public who are out here listening through the internet or possibly later on YouTube. Tonight, we have a short presentation to give a brief overview of the draft 2022-23 LCAP, which will be followed or which is part of the requirement to have a public hearing on the LCAP prior to board adoption. Next slide, please. Very quick timeline. The first thing we do when we are doing a revision to the LCAP is we seek educational partner input. We sought input from all of our educational partners, including students, families, teachers, classified staff, management, police staff, on the prior year LCAP and also on potential changes to the upcoming year LCAP. And we did that through multiple mechanisms, as you can see, surveys, focus groups, and various committees. Tonight, we are having the public hearing, June 15th, 2022. And at a later meeting, I don't know if the special meeting has been set yet, but we will need another special meeting prior to June 30th in order to adopt that LCAP. After adoption, we submit that LCAP to the Los Angeles County Office of Education. They will review it and provide us potential recommendations. If they do need us to make revisions to the LCAP, we will bring that back for later adoption. Last year that happened in September, and we anticipate that timeline would be similar if that is required this year. Next slide, please.
I
Dr.
think I
Mooney,
see a hand.
Oh, I'm sorry.
yes, I have a question. As far as educational partner input, in particular parent advisory committee groups, did they also have a copy in Spanish?
We did not have a copy in Spanish. We have not translated the LCAP. It would have been difficult to get that done because of the size of the document before it's adopted and because of the changes that happened. We had a presentation, which was actually a longer version of the presentation that I'm giving tonight, that we did have translated into Spanish when we went over it with our parent groups.
And regarding surveys, were these in English or Spanish as well?
They were in English and Spanish, yes.
Okay.
And I can verify, but I believe we did have the capability to do other languages in Spanish, but I do know for sure it was Spanish.
Okay, so just for future reference, because I did have a few stakeholders inquire regarding the LCAP not being able to fully understand and comprehend what they're reading. As we think of equity, it shouldn't be a luxury to be able to understand what these documents state, especially for their students or if they're caregivers. So as we look into the future, if we can also translate it in Spanish, that would be great. Thank you.
Absolutely. So the LCAP has 6 goals in our draft LCAP for 22-23. The first goal you'll see here is our basic conditions goal. These are our core services, are sometimes called our base services. This goal describes the actions that we take in order to open school, the basic conditions such as buildings, staffing, materials, facilities, electric bills, those types of things. That is the core program that we would provide just by function of being a school district. And there was a little over $200 million in LCFF funds dedicated for that. The next 5 goals are the goals which describe how we go above and beyond to create a cohesive and effective instructional program and instructional environment for our students beyond what would be provided as part of the core instructional program. And goal 2, we title Effective Instruction, to provide a coordinated and effective instructional program that addresses student engagement, academic preparedness, and career readiness. There are 7 actions within this goal in its current draft that really focus on how we are going to improve the academic learning environment for students, whether that is through professional development to improve the quality of instruction, or supplemental supplies to help engage our students in the learning experience, or even something like transportation to make sure, supplemental transportation, to make sure that all of our students can participate in all of the activities that our schools have to support them. And there's about $34 million in LCFF funds budgeted in this goal.
I do want to add that we also supplement some of these goals with federal funds as well. So it's, what you see here is just out of supplemental and concentration, the LCAP funds, but we do supplement with title funds as well. And then Board Member Uribe, I see a hand raised.
Yes, I have a question, just because it's very general. Can you elaborate, as far as what does engaging students in school community look like? What does educating families and how to support classroom instruction? Possibly just briefly, elaborate on each bullet point, because it is important to give more details for our stakeholders who may have questions of what is that going to look like?
Yes, absolutely. So let me pull up so I can give some good examples. Engaging students in the school community.
And Dr. Ewan, if you can also jump in, I would greatly appreciate it, so I don't just single out Miss Dr. Mooney.
Of course. So for instance, under the utilized technology, many of our Chromebooks are funded out of this particular goal. A lot of the services that we provide with IT, some of the professional learning for our teachers are funded out of here. A lot of the software is also funded out of here as well. When it comes to literacy and math, majority of those are for professional learning. We also use it to pay for TOSAs and program specialists that oversee those particular areas. These trainings that happen after school, the upcoming trainings that are happening in the summer, they're being funded partially with funds from this particular goal. Families, we do host parent workshops, and then we do pay personnel to stay after school or stay in the evening to lead these workshops. So again, we pay for it out of this particular goal. And then we've also included our classified staff for various trainings, supporting literacy, supporting needs of special ed students. And we use some of these funds to pay for that as well. Yes, I see a question. No? Okay. Anything else you want to?
I did have a question. I'm sorry. I thought it was somebody else. Yes, I'm just wondering, so with this goal, has anything changed from the previous LCAP goals, or is this kind of similar? Is it just kind of word for word of what we've had in the past?
So this goal encompasses a lot of previous actions. And one of the things that we heard in our educational partner input sessions was that the old LCAP structure felt that it was unnecessarily long.
It was just too long.
It's too complicated. And so we've consolidated several actions. So for example, in the past, we had an LCAP action to support ELA, to support social science, to support math, to support history, to support AVID, support a lot of very granular level actions. And so our educational partners had the feedback that they really wanted to see, more of a bigger, more complete picture of what our instruction looks like. And so we've consolidated a lot of those down into 2 actions. One is to support literacy instruction and support literacy instruction across content areas, and also the implementation of math strategies across content areas is one of the changes that we made based on input from our educational partners.
Board Member Ramirez. Board Member Ramirez, I see a hand raised.
He may be having technical difficulties. Let's give him a second.
While we're waiting, I do want to highlight bullet point number 4. We're one of the few districts that actually pay for all of the AP tests. Any student who wants to take it, we use these funds to pay for that test. We also pay for the PSAT, SAT. We have this belief that, we don't want to have any barriers for our students, especially those who are low income or English learners. We remove that barrier. We got it. We cover it for them, and it comes out of this goal.
Dr. Ewan, this is Mark Scavar, and I think we are the only one.
Yeah, I know in talking with my colleagues, many of them still either charge the whole thing or they charge a nominal fee, but we cover it completely. So that's something that we're very proud of.
Well, I think the board really needs to realize that. I know for a fact that is a big thing with LA County, is very proud of that. And this district should be also.
Okay, can you hear me now? Yes.
I apologize. I had a quick question. I know we've talked about this many times in the past, but are we tracking the data in a way that we can share with the community on the impact of the funds, seeing the growth of students, seeing if there's a decline somewhere or there's something that we need to include for staff PD? Are we tracking that data?
Well, I'll start with the big picture. Yes, we are. We have identified standard metrics that we use every year so that we're comparing apples to apples. And sometime near the middle of the year is when we present to the board our mid-year update. And that's when we share with you, okay, this is what we did for Avid, and here's the data that shows whether or not it worked, or as an example. So we do have data that is aligned to state metrics, and we do have data that we select that we use consistently year after year so that we're seeing growth and we're actually comparing the same sets of data.
Okay, thank you.
So our next LCAP goal is what we are calling our learning acceleration goal. This might be otherwise titled our intervention goal. The term learning acceleration is more in a positive light, where we are accelerating the learning of students who are at promise or struggling or below grade level. Basically, what we do for our students who need some additional, whether it's time, additional supplemental instruction. And this is where you'll find our Accelerated Learning Lab, a description of the Accelerated Learning Lab program, which actually was not in the prior LCAP. It was developed right around the same time as we were adopting our LCAP last year. And as you know, it was implemented using federal funds. We wanted to make sure that we highlight the Accelerated Learning Lab program and include LCFF funding to continue that program into its second year next year. Also in this goal 3, which is our targeted intervention goal, is any kind of outside of the school day, whether that's Saturday or after school, before school, intervention, one-on-one, small group tutoring, potentially credit recovery, and any of the supplemental academic supports that we provide outside of the school day. Also in this goal, which was added after the presentation was created, I apologize, is also an acknowledgement of the supports that we provide for our students with special needs. There's an action in this goal that also describes that. There is about $33 million of LCFF supplemental concentration grant funding found in this goal as well.
Dr. Mooney, since we didn't include the supports for special needs, can you just elaborate briefly on what that looks like?
Yes, there is an action on, let me pull it up, that describes that we will develop and refine systems, intervention systems, and professional development and resources for students who receive special education services, and also ensure that these students can fully participate in all services described in the LCAP. We just highlight the fact that we do provide special education services. They're not described in detail in the LCAP because those do not use supplemental and concentration grant funding. Funds for special education are part of our core program.
And I just want to highlight too, with the support of Dr. Scavarna, he really pushed us to see how we can maintain the Accelerated Learning Lab so that as opposed to it being funded out of one-time federal funds, finding ways to sustain it. So we were able to put it into the supplemental and concentration funds so that it would be an ongoing program that we could sustain throughout the years. And again, we keep hearing from teachers that students made 2-3 years worth of gains in a matter of 6 months. Elementary was a bit stronger. Secondary took a little bit longer to get it started, but in both groups, there was very positive comments. So we're very happy and supportive of this program.
Dr. Ewan, this is Mark Scavarna. I want to make sure that the entire board acknowledges and heard very clearly and the discussions with the teachers about 2 or 3 years of academic gains in 6 months, correct?
Correct. And there's data to show that, yes.
Yes. And I do not believe that anybody else has made that type of move in LA County. I know that for a fact. So that's really something to celebrate.
Yes, thank you. So
No,
moving
thank
on.
you.
Moving on to goal 4. This goal is our family engagement goal. And this is to promote and cultivate a climate that ensures meaningful communication with all educational partners and their participation towards attaining LCAP goals. This describes some of the ways that we are working to both increase communication and also engagement with our families at the school level and at the district level to promote their participation in various committees and basically how do we engage our community more above and beyond what we would otherwise do. And this is another area where the budgeted amount of $400,000 might seem low, but that is because this is only the supplemental and concentration grant funding, whereas we also have federal and core function funding that is also supporting this work.
Yes, Board Member Cabrera.
Yeah, I just have a quick question, and actually it's a note that I had made for myself when I saw, that there are full groups of parents. I believe it was the first slide, but I guess the question is, how are we making sure that it's a diverse pool of parents and guardians or just family members giving us feedback? I just want to make sure that, as we move along every year, gathering information, that we are making sure we are going above and beyond to maybe reach those that are not responding to the way that we typically try to reach out to our families for feedback, which might already be happening. So I guess the question is it happening? And if not, what are some plans to make sure that we're doing that?
If I may, I'll give you an example. One of the things that these surveys were developed by a researcher for us. So we make sure that these questions are asked in a way that helps us collect data. So the surveys are electronic, but we do have paper copies. So we do send them out and we give parents both options to either complete them online or with paper. And then if they do complete it with paper, we have staff inputting their responses into the system for us. So that removes one of the barrier of technology access, and then they can do it via paper and pencil. The other piece is when we do have stakeholder meetings, the parents who are involved are typically the ones who are elected by their community to participate. So there is some form of representation for their areas. And then we work with the schools very closely to make sure that they can increase their participation rate as much as possible. So some schools have incentives, some schools, the staff stands outside during dismissal and pickup and hand out flyers or surveys. So they do their best to try to capture a wide range of responses.
Got it, thank you.
And then one of the things I do want to add on with what Dr. Mooney shared, the budgeted amount of $400,000 does seem small compared to the other 3 goals. But as he said, we supplement a lot of this with federal Title I funds. We are required to use Title I on parent engagement. We also use Title III. So I'm very excited that we're in the process to hire 3 additional parent facilitators, parent liaisons that will focus specifically on our English learners. So they're going to be going out to provide workshops, to meet with parents of English learners, to guide them through, any type of schooling questions that they have, and to provide resources so that they can help their children at home. So we're very excited that that's going to be coming up soon. We did interview, and we're in the reference check stage, and we should be offering the position soon. Yes, Board Member Uribe.
I have a question. So I'm just wondering, how many meetings did we have with parents and teachers just to get input as far as this whole LCAP process, family engagement?
We do a formal meeting with our DLAC committee and our PAC committee, which have representatives from each of our schools. We'll do another large meeting once the LCAP is adopted and translated, more of an in-depth kind of study session, several hours of work to go into that with those 2 parent groups. Will also open up to the entire community. And each school reviews the LCAP and solicits input on the LCAP at various school meetings, whether that's their school site council or ELAC. they also will provide, basically a very brief overview, and also provides solicit some input from families in that mechanism as well.
So is that just one meeting for input?
For each of those types of meetings, it's usually 1 or 2 meetings for that input. Yes.
And for this one in particular, was it 1 or 2?
For which, I'm sorry, which one?
For the LCAP, what we're looking at right now. With DLAC.
I think she's asking for DLAC and PAC. How many?
For
meetings?
DLAC and PAC, there was one meeting for each of those groups. And then we'll have a second meeting once the LCAP, the full LCAP is translated into Spanish.
Okay, and then, so that to me is alarming. It's a lot to go over. And
Yes.
as I think of myself, as I was looking over my documents, preparing for this meeting, I had to digest it, I had to process it, I had to read it over again. And that's myself, and so what I'm thinking is our parents, when we think of truly getting input, truly allowing them to engage in this process, have time to even digest what they're learning, one meeting is not going to be something that's going to be helpful if we're truly trying to maximize and get their input as stakeholders. So I would encourage us to move away from that one and schedule multiple so we can allow time for digestion, feedback, time for them to also ask questions or give comments. And another question that I have is, we were talking about English language learners. Were the surveys also offered in Spanish for students, or were they in English?
I do not recall, Dr. Yoon, do you remember?
Well, I think we talked about this last time. They were done in English. They weren't translated.
That's right, and we were planning on translating.
Yeah, we have that noted, so we will get those translated this coming school year.
Okay, so if we can prioritize that, because I was under the impression that they would be translated for this, additional input. Please, I would just ask that that's a priority.
Yes, it was noted already from our last conversation. Thank you. And Board Member Ramirez?
My question is, are we utilizing like our student leaders on campus to help promote like these surveys and get families involved? Are we also using school events to entice parents to fill out these surveys? If there's a band thing going on or back to school night and having them at the front desk as they walk in, or at every classroom and having them turn them in, are we utilizing those moments where we have a lot of families in front of us to get these done?
I can speak about the high school. Many times our high school site councils do have students on that committee. So they'll help disseminate the information at their schools. I'm not so sure about the elementary and middle school. But the idea that you brought up sounds great, and we can take that into consideration for next year's planning.
Got it. Thank you.
Board Member Cabrera?
Yeah, I just had a question. Just if I remember hearing correctly, did we have an evaluator supporting with the process? I heard mention of an evaluator, right?
Yeah, we actually worked with a researcher to help us develop the questions and also facilitate those focus groups. We wanted it to be as objective as possible so that people can speak freely and share their input as freely as possible.
Got it. And so in terms of like even the model of like when, how many, the process, is that something they're supporting with too? In terms of like the meetings, the focus groups, the size, how they should be managed. Is an evaluator supporting us in thinking through that?
Yeah, they do provide input with that. And then, if we want more, then, we just pay more for their services. So yeah, they give us different options.
Okay, thanks.
And then Board Member Uribe, I see a hand up still.
I'm gonna lower it.
Okay, thank you.
Our fifth goal, our fifth LCAP goal, which is our EL focus goal, our goal to demonstrate that we have a specific focus on supporting the supporting our English learners as they progress towards fluency in English. This goal describes many of our actions, and this is another goal where the budgeted amount seems low, but this is just the LCFF supplemental and concentration funding that are dedicated to increasing and improving that support that we have for English learners. So for example, our ELD instruction, which is what every English learner receives, designated and integrated ELD instruction, that is funded completely out of our basic services. That is a core function of our school district to provide our English learner supports. And this LCAP goal really just highlights our focus as a district on supporting our English learners with some specific metrics in the goal itself, where we want 80% of our English learners every year to make progress on their English assessment to demonstrate that they are making progress towards fluency and towards reclassification. And we want to decrease the number of long-term English learners that we have that would be a result of us moving our students up, if you will, through the ladder of their LPAC results. So that way they move progress towards being proficient in English and thus reclassifying. So as I mentioned, there are several actions that we describe in this LCAP goal, our ELD reclassification monitoring, a lot of PD for our staff. And then as Dr. Yoon mentioned, we are using some of the federal funds, supplemental funds, to do things like out of Title III to support increasing our education for our English learners' families, as well as providing some additional supplemental training for our teachers and resources for our English learners as they look to make progress towards proficiency. Board Member Uribe, I think you have a question.
Yeah, Dr. Ewan, as far as the reclassification, I know that we're looking into something that's more equitable and less of a barrier for our students, for English language learners. So can you just a little bit elaborate on what that looks like?
Yeah, so in the past, the reclassification criteria included the requirement to pass algebra and also some other content area courses. And in reviewing the reclassification criteria from our surrounding areas and also in consultation with the County Department of Education, those criteria really served as a barrier because it didn't really focus too much on the students' language abilities. So we did work with DLAC and various school administrators and teachers to get their input, and we had full support to remove those requirements. So the current reclassification criteria only looks at language. And we've seen a lot more students reclassify. I don't have the number in front of me, but it was a very nice number. And I know that the English learner department really was in celebration of the reclassified students. I was told 520 kids.
That's awesome, Dr. Ewan. I have one more question. So I have parents that have asked me, when they initially enroll their students and, they put that their child knows more than one language, not knowing when they're actually fluent in English, that's going to place them as English language learners in elementary. My question is, would this reclassification process in any way be also a way where those parents, not knowing what this would indicate for their students, is there a way where they can, kind of go through this process where they can reclassify at a younger age?
Yeah, so thank you for bringing that up. So in the past, I believe reclassification started at either second or third grade. And recently we've changed that so that it can start that second year of the student's education. So if we have a kindergartner who comes in and they are an English learner, and if they perform very, very well, then they can be reclassified in the first grade. So it really just depends on their assessments, their scores, their report card, their language acquisition. And if they can demonstrate that they meet the criteria, then they can exit.
One more question. And when you talk about scores and assessments, is this solely based on how they're doing in the classroom, or is this also with the LPAC state test?
There's 4 requirements. There's the LPAC, which is the state language assessment. There's the SBAC, which is the state standardized test. There's a teacher, appraisal, teacher grades, And then there's a parent recommendation piece. So if the student meets all 4 of those requirements, then they can reclassify. But they do have to earn a 4 on the LPAC in order to be eligible.
Thank you.
And then Board President Gutierrez.
Yeah, I have a question, Dr. Yuan. One of my main responsibilities in my fieldwork when I was in my counseling program was focusing on EL students and going over reclassification plan with the student and the parent. So basically going over the different goals that they have to fulfill, and also talking to the parent and how they can best support them to meet the 4, to pass the LPAC, and to pass the SBAC, and the teacher evaluation. But LAUSD is a different process. But my question anyway is, what kind of reclassification monitoring do we have, or what kind of reclassification planning do we have with students and parents to help those students get to the point where they reclassify?
Yeah, so and Dr. Mooney, jump in if you have any other information, but a lot of this communication goes out from the school. So one way that it goes out is through the ELAC meetings, the English Learner Advisory Committee. The school will also hold general meetings with parents to inform them of their reclassification criteria. And then letters are sent home as well. So once a student is tested, we are required to send the scores and the reclassification criteria to parents, so they are aware of what those requirements are. At the higher levels, our counselors do work with our EL students, and they do provide information, and they guide and coach the students on what they need to do to exit and to reclassify. And they also make contact with parents to provide updates and information.
And sorry, a follow-up question to that. So is this the reclassification planning meetings, is this yearly? So every time they retest, are these meetings being held and the letters sent out?
Yeah, every time a student tests the LPAC, we are required to send a notice home with the score and also the reclassification criteria.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yes, and there are staff at each school who part of their job assignment is to more closely monitor our English learners in their progress towards reclassification. Meet with them, go over their scores, as you said. A lot of times that happens at the secondary level, in their designated ELD class. That designated ELD teacher will not just teach them, how to, some of the English skills, but they'll sit with them and go, look, here's what your scores are. You got a 4. You just need to do a little bit better on this kind of thing. So that happens as well. And then at the high schools, we also fund a teacher on special assignment who oversees the English learners, and that's funded out of this goal. The second bullet there under action summary, reclassification monitoring, that's actually, we highlight in the LCAP that we do monitor our students after reclassification as well. So we do it both before and after they reclassify.
Perfect, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Board Member Cabrera.
Yeah, I have a question regarding, the registration of students, right? And when parents are presented with that question of whether their students are know more than one language, do you know off the top of your head, or at least paraphrase, what does that question sound like? Like, what are they being asked?
Yeah, there are 4 questions, and they're yes and no questions. It's does your child speak more than one language? What language do you speak to your child in at home? I forget the other 2, but they're either yes or no questions, or they're asking specifically for the language that is used predominantly at home with the child.
Got it.
So from an education standpoint, there really isn't any room for error there, because you're stating, if the language that you're speaking at home is English, then you're stating English. If it's something else, then you're stating something else.
Got it. Could you just share those questions with me? Kind of just want to think through them. 'Cause a couple of people have said that they're sometimes confused, but it seems like there shouldn't be much confusion. So would love to just be able to look at them myself.
Yeah, and part of that too is I don't believe we can change those questions, because those questions are part of the state requirements, but I will share them with the board.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's a way that we can support them in thinking through them, not changing the questions necessarily. And it might be that there's just no way. But yeah, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure. Board Member
Dr.
Ramirez? Oh, yes.
Mark Scavarna, you can actually use those questions and then you can add some additional questions that would be district questions as long as you use the ones that are mandated. And I really want, I'd like to ask your opinion about something, and also Scott Mooney. That reclassification number, that 520, what would you folks consider that?
What do you mean by
Of a
what we?
district? Well, how would you rate that as far as that number for a district of our size? I actually think that's something really quite remarkable.
Yeah, I think I think it's great. And compared to the previous years before, it was in the hundreds, you know. So it's
Like 100, it was like 108, 106.
something like that.
Prior to COVID. So you've gone from 108 to 106 to 520 with the ability of how we were able, and the board agreed to the lowering the class size next year, and the great teachers that we have, and also the ability of this LCAP to pick up the ALLs. It's a recipe for success for these kids. But I think that 520 needs to be real loud and clear to everybody.
Yeah, I think that's somewhere in the range of 7 or 8% of the English learners, and that's just through maybe it was April or May. So that may end up even going higher to report out after the year.
Thanks, you guys. I just want to make sure everybody hears that. It's a lot of work that goes into this, and I know how the county feels about the work that you've done on the plan. They actually think it's one of the better ones put together.
Thank you. And then Board Member Ramirez?
Sorry, can you hear me now? Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Yuan. Just getting a 4 on the LPAC does not mean they're reclassifying, correct?
Right, that's one of 4 components. So they have to get a 4 on the LPAC, and then they're eligible. Then we look at the other 3 criteria.
Got it. I think some families get confused when their student gets a 4 and they're like, okay, they're done. And they're like, whoa, SBAC's not there. Other things aren't there.
Correct.
Yeah, and another data point in our data is that our students, more of our students are scoring at the 3 and the 4 level during this school year than they did in the prior year, which is also a good thing. So we're moving kids along up that LPAC ladder to get to the 4, and then we can just focus on those other few criteria after that.
Board Member Uribe?
Yeah, so my question is similar to Board Member Cabrera's question. So I'll just share my own story. As a parent, when I initially enrolled my son in the district, working on my master's program, I actually thought it was something positive, right? To enroll him. Yes, he speaks Spanish at home. He's bilingual, not knowing that I placed him in the English language learner category at this point, where he's even teachers will question, he's fluent in English. I do have him dual immersion, but however, his primary language is English. So going back to that and going back to the questions, there's a lot of room for confusion, and it's happened to family members of mine. It's happened to friends of mine where they believe it's an asset. Yes, my child is bilingual, and now they're placed in this category. So, I do understand that we are held to a certain standard. We do have to have certain questions that are, by the state. However, if we as a district, and I believe somebody mentioned this, can add those additional clarifications, what does it mean, right? Clarify what are the consequences, not necessarily consequences, but right, what is that going to mean for the student when you check these boxes? That is actually very helpful because parents will comprehend and really understand, okay, this is what that means. Oh, they're not asking, right? So I think that's important. I also have a question when it comes to special education. 2 questions. So how is a reclassification modified for special ed? And then also, how is it done if they are not designated an ELD?
Repeat that last question. How is it done if they're not in ELD? Say that.
Yeah, as far as the reclassification process, like how is it modified if they are not designated to an ELD class? That's my question.
Oh, so for students in special education, students receive ELD as well. It's part of their IEP, so they may have received it in their pull-out courses, or they might receive it in their special day class. But for reclassification, we take into consideration their IEP, and we rule out to make sure that it's not something that is prohibiting them from learning language. So what that means is, for those who are usually on the high school diploma track, they take the same courses as our English only students, so they have similar requirements. We do take into consideration modifications of certain exams and assessments and classwork so that they can meet the requirements. But for the students who are a little bit more severe, they do not take the LPAC. They take an actual a modified alternative language assessment. And it's more developmentally appropriate for students who maybe do not have the language, or just have needs that are a little bit more greater. So we look at that data instead.
So as far as mild to mod, for those students, how is that, as we're talking about reclassification, how is that going to look like for these students?
Yeah, so they still need to get a 4 on the LPAC. That is a state requirement. And then for all the other areas, that's something that the district can have a little bit more determination. And then we also incorporate the IEP team to make sure to give input as to whether or not the student has met the other 3 criteria.
Okay, so we are also looking into this population as far as what we can, what we can apply, what we can also support our students with as a district.
Oh, yes, definitely, because an EL is an EL, and they need to receive services, and they need to be monitored, and they could still go through a process for reclassification.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Yuan. I think it's just important to be mindful that SBAC is a huge barrier for so many students. And now when we look at our special ed population, talk about something that truly just, harms them in a negative way. But thank you for that answer.
Yeah, and I want to clarify too, I may have oversimplified the criteria. We don't just look at SBAC, we also look at iReady, the STAR Renaissance. So there's multiple tests that we can look at. If a student doesn't score well on SBAC, then we look at the iReady. And if they do well there, then they qualify. So there's multiple measures. Board Member Ramirez?
I apologize, forgot to lower my hand. Thank you.
And then Board Member Cabrera?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on before we move on regarding the questions. And I think we should would all agree being bilingual is beautiful and it's great, and it's, it actually helps your brain function in so many other ways. So I guess when we're asking the questions, or when we're talking about, how families are answering these questions, I wouldn't want us to kind of think of it like bad or good, but more like, what they're answering and like what that might lead to. And, just being mindful of that, because I wouldn't want I'm so grateful that I'm bilingual, and it's opened up so many doors for me, right? And we want that for our students, but all this to say, just not get caught up in potentially putting it in good or bad for your student. Just want us to be mindful of that.
Thank you. And then the last goal.
Yes, our last LCAP goal is our social emotional focus goal. This is where we describe a lot of the services that we are going to provide to address the overall well-being of our students. And we have a very specific metric that we look at in this goal, which is the positive feelings domain of the Panorama Student SEL Competency Survey. And so that's really what we're focused on, is not just the academic needs of our students, but we know that we have students with a great many needs, especially around our social, emotional, and mental health services. So we can never provide enough of those services to our kids, and this goal describes how we as a district are focused on those important things, whether that's professional development for all staff, for our particular staff who provide the direct services, marriage and family therapists, additional counselors. Really, it's so many things that our kids are still dealing with. A lot of the trauma from the pandemic. We could go on for days about all the different ways that our kids have been negatively affected, whether it's from the pandemic or other situations in their current life or in their past. So this goal describes a lot of those services that we provide for mental health, physical health and wellness, and social emotional needs. And that actually is the end of our goals in the current draft of the 22-23 LCAP. And we are recommending that the Board of Education hold a public hearing to solicit any additional input that may come from the public on the draft of the 22-23 LCAP. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. Are there any further questions from my colleagues? Yes, go ahead, Board Member Uribe.
Thank you. I would just ask, as we do look into the future, to please increase meetings with our stakeholders, staff, teachers, students, parents, and just once again allow for that time to digest, also be able to give back feedback, and just be able to fully comprehend what's being presented. So definitely just increasing those meetings.
Thank you, Clerk Cabrera.
Just wanted to add on to something that Board Member Madrigal just shared. I think that, as we think about presenting this to families, obviously once it's translated, it's going to be a lot more accessible. But even then, I think it's important to maybe think about, and I'm not saying create it, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. I did a quick Google search and there are, one pagers or videos or, ways to just really try to break down to families, what is this? Why is it important? How can I get involved? Like, why should I even care about this? And so I think if we can look into finding a resource like that, so that we can put it together with, being able to share it, not only in Spanish, but also in English. Just because it's in our language of preference doesn't mean that we're going to understand it. I would really encourage us to find a resource like that we can share with the families. Not encourage us, I ask that we do it.
And if I can add to Clerk Cabrera's, if we could also have it in Mandarin as well. Vice President Ramirez?
Yeah, one of the last things I want to bring up in terms of accessibility for our families and our stakeholders is if we can have this meeting maybe sooner. I think the last few years we've been pushing it to the end. I know we've been going through a lot, but we only got 2 weeks left to approve this. But if we can have this come to us sooner so we can go through this with families and stakeholders ahead of time, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Legal counsel, do we have any written public comment on this item?
President Gutierrez, no, we don't. We have not received any.
And then Dr. Yuan, do we have any public comment on this item?
I don't hear the phone ringing, and I see one hand raised in the participants. So that's David Navarre. Jonathan, can you give David Navarre the mic?
Hello, good evening, everybody. How are you? I do have some questions, concerns, my question is regarding input to the LCAP. My question is, what was different from this year and prior years? And specifically, in prior years, prior to the pandemic, I remember that we had regular meetings with different stakeholders. We had parents there, we had, MTA, we had CSEA, we had administrators, and we had, meaningful discussions. Even then, I thought that there was some challenges. This year, I don't believe there was a single one of those meetings. So I just don't feel that there was the input that was necessary. The one meeting I do recall was the focus group, and even that felt like an afterthought. It was later in the year. I was sent an email and I tried to recruit some members, And every date that we threw out there, it's difficult to get a group of people together. It was said, nope, can't make that one. Finally, I was given a calendar and said, this is available dates. And it was mostly black. No availability. I picked the one open spot, 9:30, I think it was a Tuesday. And then I was told that my members were not going to receive a sub. So how can they go to a meeting, a focus group, when they're supposed to be teaching? So, let's be a team player. Let's make it happen. We finally settled on an after school date and made it happen. Even from my last email, even the payment for that meeting has yet to be submitted and to be processed. So it just didn't feel like it was a really an honest attempt to gain feedback from at least this stakeholder group. I can't speak for the rest. I do know that we didn't have those meetings. Maybe there's something different. I know it was a pandemic year last year, and this year we're still going that, but we were able to do a whole lot of other things. I don't think we were able to get the input from our members as we should have. And even anecdotally, I know from many sites feel that they were not given the time or the input. Those meetings that were held, I don't think they don't feel they were sufficient to get that input from them. That concludes my comment.
Legal counsel, is Dr. Yuen able to respond to any of those questions? Are we able to?
Yeah, this is an agenda item, right? And so if there are questions being posed, either Dr. Mooney or Dr. Yuen, either if they have the information now, can address those questions, or they can follow up and do additional research or review the matter and get back to Mr. Navarre.
Dr. Mooney, Dr. Yuen, do you have any responses to any of those questions, or do we need further time to respond?
I don't want to give a necessarily some wrong information, but I do know that we did have challenges with getting some of our focus groups done. Part of that was to coordinate with the consultants who we brought in to manage those focus groups, which were one of the important ways that we felt we could get the individual input from those educational partner groups that we used to have in the whole group committee meetings. But we do anticipate that with the return to in-person meetings, we'll be able to return to some of the ways we did those and get some of that input in a much more efficient way. That's not a complete, we could probably put together a more complete response to how we're gonna get our our educational partner input in the coming year. But I do want to say that, yes, we do recognize that it was a challenge this year.
Perfect, thank you so much. I do see another hand, Ms. Deborah Ferguson, if we can allow her time to speak.
Thank you, President Gutierrez. I'm again putting on my special ed lens. Thank you, Mr. Uribe, board member, for addressing some of the concerns as it applies to special ed. I just need a little bit of clarification, please. When we say, because SBAC is a huge mountain for them, kids speaking from secondary, they're reading at a second or third grade level. So taking the SBAC and getting whatever score is mandated to have them, be able to check that box is a huge challenge. Then you indicated that perhaps there were other measurements such as iReady and so on. How does that look, or how is that an objective process where, again, it requires a certain score, or is that someone's subjective input? And if I could get more information as to exactly how that looks. And then additionally, do we have information in regards to, out of those 500 students that reclassified, the percent the percent, what percent that represented, and how that compares to the percent of reclassification for special education students. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Mooney, Dr. Ewan, any
Yeah.
responses to that public
Sure.
comment?
Yeah, just briefly, and we can follow up with Ms. Ferguson as well. When it comes to the alternative tests like the iReady or the STAR and the other local assessments that we use, there are cutoff scores that we have in order for students to meet the reclassification criteria. And oftentimes those cutoff scores are determined by that test providers as to what is a good gauge for students demonstrating a good grasp of the English knowledge. I must say that it's not at a very, it's not at the level of at grade level standard. It's a little bit below because we know that our English learners are still learning the English, so it's not too rigorous, but still there is a standard that is applied. The other question about the percentage of the RFEP, the reclassified students and the percentage of SPED, we have to look into it and break down the data to see what that percentage is, and we'll get back to her and we can report that to the board as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Ewan. I don't see any other further public comments or no. Yes, Board Member Uribe, is your hand?
Yes, thank you. So really, not briefly, but one thing that's standing out, and I heard from multiple stakeholders, was the fact that there wasn't that intentionality. It was not prioritized to have that stakeholder input. I understand we are going through, virtual, and there's scheduling challenges and all that, but that does not justify why we would not get that stakeholder input. As policymakers, it's important for us to hear what are the stakeholders saying, what are the needs, what do our schools need, how can we best support our students, and if we're not including the people who are boots on the ground, how are we going to be effective policymakers? That to me is not equitable at all. It's actually alarming. It doesn't seem productive to truly say like these are the needs. This is what we should focus on when there wasn't that ability to fully get all stakeholder input voices to this meeting today and to this document, which is going to be for this academic year. So, this once again is just something that we should not accept, and we should be very intentional as far as how are we going to be proactive and get that input from all stakeholders, rather than we'll try again next time. I would just say this is not something that we can try again, because ultimately this is going to impact our students negatively or positively. So I just ask of that.
Thank you. Okay, hearing no more public comment, hand raises. I do see Board Member Magaña. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you so much for all that information on the presentation. Thank you so much for the feedback. It absolutely does help us learn. And I know this has taken a lot of time, a lot of effort from our staff. So first and foremost, I want to tell you thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your dedication. Thank you for doing the research. I know it's been quite challenging, and of course, there's always room for improvement. So we'll definitely, I hope that we do take all of this into consideration, and that we continue to grow, and that we continue to improve our district, and we continue to move forward. So just thank you so much to both of you. I appreciate your hard work.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Mooney and Dr. Ewan. This public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion to approve this item?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Vice President Ramirez.
Aye.
Clerk Cabrera.
Aye.
Board Member Magaña.
Aye.
Board Member Uribe.
Aye.
And an aye for me as well. That motion is carried. At this time, we're going to consider item 6C, public hearing, preliminary budgets for 2022, 2023, 2024, and the year 2024 through 2025. At this time, I declare the public hearing open. Mr. Ellington, is there a staff report on this item?
Good evening, Madam President. Yes, we do, Mr. Chen. Good evening, members of the board, executive cabinet, our superintendent, co-workers in our community. Tonight, we're here to present the hearing for the preliminary budgets for 2022, 2023, 2023, 2024, and 2024, 2025. Inclusive of this is the Local Control and Accountability Plan, the LCAP, and the 2021-2022 annual update. I'll take the next slide, Mr. Chen. The cycle of financial reports brings us to the adopted budget. It's the projection for the new budget fiscal year. It includes estimated actuals for prior year through June the 30th. And it should be approved. It is required to be approved on or before July the 1st. Tonight, we present the preliminary budget for public review, and we will be coming back on the 29th of June for the board to adopt our budget. I'll take the next slide, Mr. Chen. Action items and the public hearing requirements. The budget was developed using the state adopted criteria and standards. It includes the expenditures necessary to implement the Local Control and Accountability Plan, or the LCAP, and annual update. The budget was filed and adopted subsequent to a public hearing, which is tonight, by the governing board of the school district, pursuant to education code sections listed here. I'll take the next slide, Mr. Chen. The budget includes the governor's May revision budget assumptions. The first row of data here is the LCFF, or the Local Control Funding Formula Cost of Living Adjustment, or COLA. You'll see for 2021-22, just over 5%. For 22-23, 6.56%. We anticipate, based on what we're hearing on the state level, that that number may rise. We're hopeful that that number may rise, but you can see in the subsequent 2 years that it does decline based on the information given now. The second row of data is our district funded ADA for fiscal years 22-23 through 2024-2025. And this data was taken from LACO's calculation of the district's average 3 prior years of data. You'll notice a structural decrease in funded ADA over the years for the current budget year, 2022-2023, and the 2 subsequent budget years. The row of data below that is our district enrollment, which does not include the County Office of Education students. And you'll see again that it's a structural decrease in enrollment that's anticipated. Our unduplicated student count, or what's called the UPP percentage, is steady above 80%. I'll take the next slide, Mr. Chen. The state budget. The state constitution requires that the state budget bill is presented to the governor by June the 15th, which is today. It's a constitutional deadline. After that, there are budget trailer bills that can follow in the next few days or weeks after the main budget bill has been presented and approved by the legislature. 12 days after being presented with the bills, the governor can do any of the following. Approve the budget bill and or accompanying trailer bills as presented to him. Approve the budget bill with specific line item reductions, or veto the entire budget bill and any accompanying trailer bills and send it back to the legislature. Next slide, Mr. Chair. Here is our district's multi-year projections for the combined general fund. Top section of data is our revenue. You'll note that the estimated actual revenue and the current budget year and subsequent budget years, the revenue does decrease. That's primarily due to the COVID stimulus money that the district received. The effects of that over expenditures For estimated actuals, we expect a net increase to our fund balance. However, in the budget year and the 2 subsequent years, based on our rising compensated expenditures and other district plans, which we're currently evaluating to see if there's room for reductions. But currently it does present a decrease in the fund balance over time. You'll note below that section of data, the ending fund balance, as I described, it's a structural erosion of the ending fund balance based on current data that we have. However, we're anticipating, as I said earlier, a larger COLA coming into the district, which would mean greater dollars for our district. But it's important to note that over the entire budget period, that the district is able to meet its required reserve for economic uncertainties. Take the next slide, Mr. Chen. Here is our average daily attendance, which many districts throughout California are struggling with right now. Our projected loss of over 1,200 average daily attendance per year since 2018-19, all the way through the second subsequent budget year. You'll notice the steep declines in average daily attendance. Some of this is due to the pandemic, the recent years at least, and some of the capturing of data in the, it's not remote learning, but the contracted learning, that the distance that students are doing. Next slide, Mr. Chen. This concludes our presentation of our budget for the budget year and 2 subsequent years. We recommend that the Board of Education adopts an open public hearing regarding the preliminary budgets for year 2022, 2023, 2023, 2024, and 2024, 2025. Inclusive of this action is the Local Control and Accountability Plan, the LCAP, and the 2021-2022 annual update. Mr. Ramirez, I see you have a hand up.
Yeah, quick question. Students who chose to go virtual for the rest of this year, they don't count towards the ADA?
Well, they do.
Okay.
And I believe our Student Services Department is working on capturing all that data currently.
Got it. So we still need to get those students into the system.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Ellingson. Are there any questions from the board? I see Board Member Magaña. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you, Madam President. First and foremost, thank you, Mr. Ellingson, for your hard work and your dedication. I know the budget is always quite challenging. It's challenging. It's quite challenging, actually. It's large. There's a lot of important matters that need to be considered, and you do an excellent job. So thank you so much. Something that I think should be noted is that this year, I know we had graduations a little early, and so that kind of created a domino effect of students maybe not going to school after graduation. So, and I think that affects our ADA. So if we can possibly work on that so that that doesn't occur again, maybe next year, so that we can continue to encourage our students to come to school, that would be great. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Board Member Magaña. We have a fantastic accounting team, and all the credit goes to them. They did a lot of really great work on this. We also have a new brilliant Director of Fiscal Services who really jumped in and got her arms around a lot of this work. So all the credit goes to them. Thank you so much.
Vice President Ramirez, did you have another question?
Oh, I just keep forgetting to put my hand down. I'm sorry.
No worries. Legal counsel, do we have any written public comment on this item?
President Gutierrez, we did not receive any written comment for this public hearing. Dr. Ewan, do we have any comments in real time?
No real time, and I don't see any in the participants panel.
Okay, let's give it 1 second just in case anyone wants to speak on this public hearing. Okay, seeing no hands, I declare this public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
Oh, second.
Okay, perfect. Roll call vote, Vice President Ramirez,
Aye.
Clerk Cabrera,
Aye.
Board Member Magaña,
Aye.
Board Member Uribe,
Aye.
and I for me as well. That motion is carried. At this time, we're going to consider item 6D, signature authorizations, consideration and update list of authorized signatures for contracts and other legal documents. Original board action, December 10, 2021, personnel changes. I would like to call on Dr. Scavarna.
This is kind of cut and dry. If you make any changes to authorized signatures based upon somebody changing in who's on the authorized signature list, you have to update it, and this list reflects that. Recommend approval.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Scavarna. Is there a motion to approve this item?
Motion. Second.
Perfect. Thank you. Roll call vote. Vice President Ramirez,
Aye.
Clerk Cabrera,
Aye.
Board Member Magaña,
Aye.
Board Member Uribe,
Aye.
and I for me as well. That motion is carried. At this time, we're going to move on to consent agenda. I do have an item to be pulled from the consent. 7J, is there any other consent agenda items to be pulled for further discussion and or action?
Madam President, if I may, I'd like to pull 6G, please.
6G, okay. And then board member, is that the only one, board member Magaña?
Yes, thank you.
Board member Uribe, I see your hand up.
Yes, I was also pulling 7J.
Okay, perfect. So going in order of the agenda, we're gonna go ahead and do, is there a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda with the modifications as indicated?
Motion?
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Perfect. Roll call vote, Vice President Ramirez,
Aye.
Clerk Cabrera,
Aye.
Board Member Magaña,
Aye.
Board Member Uribe,
Aye.
and I for me as well. That motion is carried. Okay, so let's start with 6G, correct? Yes, go ahead, Board Member Magaña.
Hi, so thank you. I just have a couple questions. I see that we're approving an RSP for Metro Guard, City Guard, Security Guard services. I just wanted a little more information. As I was reading their RSP, there are some, I know security is one of our major concerns, but I just wanted additional information. I know that when we put our RSP, we asked for non-armed services, and I see that in the response, they state that they are armed services, and that's concerning. So I wanted maybe more information as to that. Also, under the statement of qualifications E, section 6, where it says where they describe their protocols of contacting the district in case of an incident, I see that there is a lot of like, they're gonna call their supervisor gonna call our supervisor, that supervisor, then I guess we'll call our emergency services, the police department. So that seems like that's a lot of time that's being delayed. And also it says the response time is from an hour to 2.5 hours. So those are just some concerning thoughts, as you know, the security of our students is quite important. And I'm just wondering if we have additional information on this item.
I am not prepared to give you additional information on this as Mark Scavarna, so I would recommend that you would pull this to the next meeting. Because I do not have, that was through Garland's office, and I just need to go over that with her and provide all the information for that. We could put it on our next meeting and answer all your questions.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. If we can table it for our next meeting, Madam President, if that's okay with the board.
Yes, of course. Legal counsel, can you please advise, do you need a motion in a second to table it to the next meeting?
Yes, that is preferred.
Okay, perfect. So that's your motion, correct, Board Member Magaña?
Yes.
Is there a second to table item 6G for our next board meeting?
Second.
Can I get a roll call vote, Vice President Ramirez,
Aye.
Clerk Cabrera,
Aye.
Board Member Magaña,
Aye.
Board Member Uribe,
Aye.
and an aye for me as well. The motion is carried. So this item is tabled for the next meeting. Thank you so much. So I would like to go back to 7J. I do have a quick, some questions. If Dr. Yu and Dr. Scavana, legal counsel, can jump in. If you can please provide a refresher to us, to the community, on what Prop 39 is.
Sure.
I would-
So, oh, go ahead, Dr.
No,
Savarna.
go ahead.
So Prop 39 is a law that requires school districts to share facilities with charter schools. One of the requirements is that the charter school has to have a certain number of in-district students, meaning these are students who reside in our district boundaries and would have attended our schools. So that is why they have access to our facilities, is because of the in-district students. We do not calculate anybody who is coming from outside the district. The calculation is purely based on the in-district students. So, so what charter schools do is that they get a list of students who are meaningfully interested in attending charter schools. They send it to us with their names, address, parent signatures. We verify every single document to make sure that it's complete, including signatures. And then we have our attendance unit verify every address to make sure that they belong in our boundaries. And from there, we determine whether or not they meet the minimum requirement to qualify for Prop 39. And just to give an example, for Time Community School, as an example, they did not have the numbers to meet Prop 39 requirements, which is why we denied them. However, KIPP did have the numbers to meet, which is why we have to provide the space for them.
Got it. Another question, Dr. Yuen, Dr. Scavana, legal counsel, or anyone. So the 12 classroom spaces that are in item 7J, can you just give us a refresher on how we determine that those classrooms are empty?
So the way that Prop 39 sees empty classes is that there aren't a rostered teacher with a rostered class in it. So for instance, if it's a computer lab, it's considered empty, even though students can go in and use it during the daytime. If it's a science lab, it's considered empty because it's not rostered with students in it. So that's how these classrooms were determined to be empty.
And then I have a few questions about this item, so I do apologize ahead of time to my colleagues. So in regards to, I know that we were negotiating to reduce classroom sizes. Did we look into this, if any classrooms were going to be needed, if we're going to decrease classroom sizes? Are any of these classrooms going to be needed for our next school year?
At that time, we were going by what was available at the school. From my understanding too, in communication with legal, is that we're obligated to offer space, regardless. So this is just something that we have to do.
So
Yeah,
what
and if I
happens?
just may,
Yeah,
I apologize.
go ahead, legal counsel, please add.
No, if I just may supplement minimally to what Dr. Yuen said, is that we also have to operate based on specific statutory timelines, right? And so then we have to operate with whatever information is available at the time that we are negotiating with our preliminary offer, and they go back and then our final offer. So we have to rely based on the information regarding the number of students, the availability of classrooms, and then our obligation to Prop 39 to provide comparable facilities or classrooms as we offer to our own students.
Okay, so let's say next year we get more students, hopefully, right? In the perfect world, if we get inclining enrollment and we do need more space, more classrooms, what happens then? Let's say we need 3 more classrooms. What happens there?
So Prop 39 is an annual application. So every year the charter school has to apply. So for instance, next year, if Gascon has more students, let me backtrack a little bit. So as part of the process, we do look at the comparison schools and we audit all of those schools to see which schools have space. And based on the data, that's the school that we offer. If one school does not have enough space to accommodate the entire charter school, then we can consider putting them at two different schools, but they have to be in relative proximity to one another. But that's usually the process.
We would have to put our own students in different schools?
No, the charter school.
The charter school.
Yes.
So if we get more enrollment in Gascon, we would have to tell KIPP like, hey, we're going to offer you this classroom somewhere else.
If that's the case, yes, we can say, hey, we have 5 classrooms at this school, and then we have 6 over here. This is what we're offering.
Okay. Another question regarding the restrooms, because I know that was a conversation in public comment. So the restrooms are only going to be exclusive, the restrooms, the library restrooms, boys and girls, the 2 boys and girls restrooms adjacent to room 107. So this is only exclusive to KIPP. So none of our students or staff can use those restrooms?
Yes, so even before this school year, KIPP had access to the restrooms in the library as exclusive use. And then for next year, because of their expansion, they requested to have additional restroom space. For what was reported to me, there was consultation with the staff, and the staff actually, at least what was reported to us, was in support of allowing KIPP to use those spaces because it would keep KIPP on one side of campus. So that's what was communicated with us, and that was the negotiations that we had with KIPP. The request was because they had they're increasing in the number of students and they need the facilities.
So is this like a right for them to have their own restrooms, or is it the district saying you can have these restrooms?
Yeah, it's not a right, meaning we don't have to do it, but because they have an increase in number of students, and then also there was a concern of commingling. This was something to keep the 2 schools, at different places.
President Gutierrez, if I may, and obviously, once we have these type of negotiations and we discuss and consult with staff at Gascon, then these are the elements that are included in a facilities use agreement, right? So these terms do become incorporated as provisions in the agreement that now it's binding against KIPP and against the district.
Okay, I just want to make sure that our students and our adult staff have enough places to go for the restroom. So did we get some feedback on that to make sure that there's going to be enough restrooms available for our boys and girls and our adult staff?
Yes, again, based on the feedback that we received, allowing KIPP to use the bathrooms over in the 100 side would still give the school and staff enough bathroom options over there.
Okay, and sorry, colleagues, my last question. So what are the legal implications if we decide not to follow through with Prop 39, or say, you know what, Gascon students, they deserve all the classrooms, we're not going to follow through with Prop 39 because there's no space? What are the legal implications, legal counsel, if we do not abide by Prop 39?
Sure, and keep in mind that, as Dr. Yuen said, this is an annual process, right? So on an annual basis, we are required by Prop 39 to process a petition from charter schools if they meet the minimum requirements, and it especially includes that they have documentation that we can independently vet that the amount of students that they are representing that are enrolled in their school, that is actually the amount, right? So Prop 39 allows for this legal framework where it's not discretionary. It only is discretionary to decline a petition or application, as Dr. Yuen said, when they don't meet those minimum requirements. So for example, we had 2 applications this year, one from KIPP and one from Time time, it was our determination that they did not meet the minimum requirements, and we independently reviewed and assessed the information they provided. And based on that, we have the discretion to reject the application, which was done. There was some challenges to that rejection, but we held steady that based on the law that we were allowed to reject the application, right? And now with KIPP, they met the minimum requirements. And so we also assess, not just with Gascon, but right, what other schools can we offer? What other schools may have the space required based on the number of projected students. But if we can say, no, we're not going to, but that just means we're opening ourselves to a litigation, which in essence would be successful if we're not meeting our own legal obligations to adhere to Prop 39.
So what I'm hearing is like, if we were to vote no today, then technically it would cost our students hundreds of thousands of dollars going into a lawsuit with KIPP, right?
Yes, and especially because we don't have a strong legal justification to reject a petition or application from KIPP because they have met the minimum requirements as enumerated by Prop 39.
Okay, thank you. I understand now. And I apologize, colleagues. That was a lot of questions. Thank you, Dr. Yuen, legal counsel, Dr. Skvarna, for providing your great responses. And I know that Board Member Uribe, you had the same item. So go ahead, you can have discussion, ask your questions. And then we'll go with Board Member Clerk Cabrera and then Vice President Ramirez, you have your hands up.
I believe Ms. Cabrera and Mr. Ramirez have questions, which I don't mind waiting for my comments until after the answers.
Okay, go ahead, Clerk Cabrera. You have the floor.
I believe Vice President Ramirez had his hand up first, so you can go ahead, Vice President Ramirez.
Okay, Vice President Ramirez, go ahead. You have the floor.
It's totally okay. The only question I had, Dr. Yuen or legal counsel, if this gets approved today and it's set in stone, if we do have increase in students and we do need those classrooms, we already have that in place and we can't request them, correct?
Can you repeat that again?
So for example, let's say we grow 110 students at Gascon and we need 3 more classrooms after we've signed this Prop 39 and their requests. We can't request those 3 classrooms back, right? Because it's set in stone for the rest of the year.
I believe so. And legal counsel, if you can either support it or refute it, but I believe once we enter into this agreement, then that's the agreement.
That is correct. And again, it's based on the information that we have at hand. And so the facilities to use agreement would be enforceable for the next school year. So it would be for the entire 2022-2023 school year.
Got it. And then just to confirm, Dr. Yuen, staff at Gascon was included in conversations about KIPP and the space that we're providing them, and they've known about this for quite some time, and they've been involved in the decisions that have been made, correct?
Yes, we spoke with the principal, and that was the information that was shared with us.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Vice President Ramirez. Go ahead, Clerk Cabrera, you have the floor.
Thank you. My question is, are there any updates on a timeline that KIPP has on, potentially already having access to their own space soon?
Yes, they shared that the last tenant has left the place that they purchased. So now they are in the process of getting approval from the state to start their work. So at our meetings, they do provide updates on the status for that building.
Thank you. And my only other question was, what happens, right, if we don't follow through with this, or we don't offer any space under Prop 39, which has already been answered, but I think something for us all to definitely think about, for the community to listen to and hear again, right? We know that this is a difficult decision to make, And at the same time, we also need to make sure that we're protecting the monies that are our students and that we needed to be able to provide all of these things that they need. So just, that was my question. It was answered. And I just want to acknowledge that I think we all know this is very difficult.
Yes, thank you, Clerk Cabrera. Go ahead, Board Member Uribe, you have the floor.
Dr. Ewan and legal counsel, I have a question regarding AB 1505, which was implemented July 1st, 2020. Have we looked into what the consideration of the fiscal impact that would cause our district?
I believe, let me just refresh my memory here. Yeah, so part of the process is, I believe that KIPP submitted their charter petition right before this bill was enacted. So a lot of the provisions that would have allowed us to deny their charter was not applicable at that time. So now it is really a matter of, since LACO is the oversight and the approving agency, for them to monitor to make sure that they're doing what they're doing. And if they're not, then LACO has the authority to correct them or even go as far as shutting their program down.
Thank you, Dr. Yuan. We do have Mr. Bill McGuire joining us, and just walking the campus and seeing what that's going to look like, how much space they're actually going to take from the students, this whole division that's happening there, feelings of our students sharing that they're having negative experiences, as far as simple things, whether it's getting the ball or whatever it may be. I do ask you to please have the LACO board do a walkthrough and for them to see themselves what's happening to our district, what are the stakeholders saying, ultimately, how do the students feel? Because ultimately, we're all here for the students, we're here for their success. So if students are expressing that they don't fully feel comfortable in this environment, there's some, tension there, they're having mixed emotions, right? So I just encourage the LACO board to also walk and see what's happening and hear from the stakeholders themselves so they can truly see how that implementation, how that approval of KIPP, as well as, another charter that wasn't by them, but the state board, how that's truly impacting our schools on a daily basis. Thank you, Mr. McGuire.
And I would also say that not only LACO, right, as the approving authority, but bring your senator and your assembly person, because they're the ones that pass the legislation of Prop 39, which allows the charter schools this right. And so that obviously in the state of California, as Norma stated, that this is the law, right? And it's very difficult on schools that are affected by this. And I'm on several board meetings like this, where this discussion is happening over and over. And really it's at the state legislature where the appeal needs to be made. So I would strongly suggest that you become active, and Superintendent Scavarna knows how to do that very well, right? And lobby that you don't believe that the current situation with Prop 39 is beneficial to the students of Montebello and other districts in California.
Board Member Uribe, does that conclude your questions? Just before I move on.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Vice President Ramirez, you have your hand up?
Yes, last question, Dr. Nguyen. A lot of questions around their budget and ADA and confirmation. We don't take care of that, correct? LACO's taking care of confirming ADA and signatures and doing all that to ensure that they're in compliance?
Yeah, so since LACO is the authorizing agency, they provide the oversight. So they monitor everything from performance to budget to attendance, just like how we monitor our own schools.
And they're also collecting fees that are supposed to be paid towards the district, correct?
Say that again?
The school, KIPP should be paying fees accordingly to the square footage that they're taking up. They're collecting the fees, it's not us.
No, we get paid directly. So every month
Got
we
it.
get a check from them.
Got it. So, and they're all squared away on that part.
Yes, they're up to date.
Okay, thank you.
And then before I lose my train of thought, I know that Mr. McGuire brought up a really great point, and I want to start the initiative. I do want to write a letter to our state legislators, our Senate Assembly, anyone in higher office that has control over Prop 39. If Cabinet can help me as well to draft a letter about the impacts of Prop 39. I think that would be a great idea. And if my colleagues want to co-sign the letter, so that way we can, bring back the space for our students. And I know a lot of us, we really feel a negative impact having KIPP in our schools, and a lot of community members, have voiced that there's a lot of negative impact that our students are dealing with because of KIPP co-locating. So I do want to start that initiative, drafting a letter. And if any of my colleagues want to co-sign this letter, I'll be sending out to our legislators or federal policymakers. Please let me know if you would like to co-sign it. I think this will be very important. Or if we have any community members that want to co-sign it as well, I think it will be even stronger that we unite as a community. And then I see Board Member Uribe, you have your hand up.
I'm gonna lower it now.
Board Member Magana.
Hi, thank you, Madam President. Yes, I want to echo some of the sentiments of my colleagues. I think, it's quite evident, and I hope that our stakeholders also can see that this is quite a challenging decision. It's not something that we invited or that we wanted in our district or in our schools. It was obviously something that was approved by the county. I know some of us did go and speak up at that meeting, asking them not to approve the KIPP in our district. And obviously, we didn't succeed with that. It is quite challenging. And as legal has stated, and Dr. Ewan has stated, saying no to something like this can possibly cost us hundreds of thousands of taxpayer money that is indicated for the education and the well-being of our students. On top of that, we have no grounds, so we would definitely lose. Obviously, I think that Prop 39 is something that needs to be revisited and it needs more attention. So thank you, Board President, for having that initiative on that letter, and hopefully we will be heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so are there any more questions, discussions for item number 7J before I move to motion on this item? Okay, hearing none, I would like to move to approve 7J. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Vice President Ramirez.
Aye.
Clerk Cabrera.
Aye.
Board Member Magana.
Aye.
Board Member Uribe.
I will be voting no. I can't support KIPP taking more space from our students.
Okay, noted. And an aye for me, and that motion is carried. All right, let's move on to item number 9, Board of Education member and superintendent of schools reports or individual member items for discussion, research, or for future agendas. So let's start with Board Member Uribe.
Good evening, everyone. Just want to wish everyone a very blessed evening. Today was the last day of school, and I know that there was just many mixed emotions. So many students were just sharing that they were sad and that they wanted school to last longer at the elementary level. So hearing that enthusiasm and that joy that they had of going back to school, being in person was just really beautiful, especially as a mom and as a policymaker. So just wanted to let everyone know, have a very blessed summer. To all of our staff, thank you. You guys made it through this year, and without all of our staff and all of our stakeholders, we wouldn't be here today celebrating. So God bless you and have a good evening.
Thank you. Next, Board Member Magana.
Good evening, everyone. I want to start off by thanking all of you for joining us today. It's always great to hear from our constituents. There was obviously a lot of important items happening. I also want to congratulate all of our MUSC family, our teachers, our staff, just everyone that makes education happen for our students. I want to congratulate you. I want to congratulate our students and the parents for a successful school year. I did have the opportunity to visit some campuses, and we did talk about some security measures. So it's always good to go out there and to see for ourselves, right, how things are functioning, what is needed. Sometimes it's good for us to have a very real perspective as to how things work and what they look like. And sometimes when you're on the board and you're reading things, sometimes we don't get the whole experience. And I was able to do that. So thank you to Dr. Scavarna. I know he's been out there and he's been working really hard to ensure the safety of our staff and our students. What else is going on? Well, other than that, I wish you all a great summer. Thank you so much. I appreciate everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Clerk Cabrera.
Buenas noches, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. Just to echo what some of my colleagues have already said, I hope you all enjoy your summer with whatever that means to you, resting, sleeping in, working out, whatever it is that, can add some extra sunshine to what is already, us having amazing days. I love the summer in case that hasn't come through. So I hope you all enjoy it. And, just one question that I wrote down and that I'll continue to ask and encourage us all to continue to ask ourselves as we're thinking about collaborating with our families, really, making sure that we are seeing them as individuals who we partner with, obviously, because they entrust in us that they're going to send their kids and we're going to take care of them and teach them. And there are partners in this, and making sure that we advance that is how can we make this accessible to families, whether it is the LCAP, whether it is, other types of information we're putting out there. And so you'll hear me asking that a lot, as we move along. But just wanted to plant the seed and encouraging us all to always think about that, which I know we do, but, I'll just keep bringing it up, because sometimes we just need reminders. So I hope you're all doing well. Que pasen buenas noches, and we'll see each other again very soon.
Thank you. Up next, Vice President Ramirez.
Good evening, everybody. Summer vacations here. I know the elementary students want more time, but I know our high school students are ready to go. They need a break. I'm glad everybody has a break, and I hope everybody stays safe and drink lots of water. It's hot out here. Have a good evening, everybody. Have a good summer.
Thank you. And in my report, I would just like to give some time to Dr. Yuen to just provide any updates on the Bella Vista Elementary Dual Immersion Program. I know that we had a lot of calls, questions, and public comments about the teachers for our Dual Immersion Program. So if you can provide any quick updates, Dr. Yuen.
Yes, thank you. We did get some updates regarding the vacancies over at Bella Vista, especially with the dual immersion teachers. I am glad to say that yesterday we did have interviews for the DIA teacher at Bella Vista, and then tomorrow we're going to have another interview. Yesterday, a candidate was selected, so it's just going through the process of offering the position to this person, and then tomorrow I anticipate the same thing happening, that after the interview we select somebody and offer the position. On a positive note too, we also hired another Mandarin teacher. So now we have a Mandarin teacher at Montebello High, and now we have one at Sure High who will split her time at Macy so that we can prepare for the group of Bella Vista students coming up the track. So we have somebody there to build the program for us. And then just something to think about for our parents with these two teachers, it was more of a personal choice that they left. I know that we did offer to sponsor a work visa, but that was declined. And the other one is seeking advanced education. So it was a personal choice, but I think the community just needs to understand that we and the board is very supportive of this program, and we've done a lot to help with teacher retention, such as a 6% salary increase, reduction in class size. And again, I believe we might be the only district in this area, but we offer a free induction program. So every new teacher, they have to clear their credential. They can either go to a university and pay like $5,000 a year for 2 years. We offer it free here. So, and then if you can see, we are also hiring more TOSAs to support new teachers next year because we anticipate hiring more. So we do offer a lot of perks here for people working here. So I think in this case, it was really a personal decision from the two staff members, but we have teachers, we have interviews, and we have interviewed yesterday, and we have people ready to fill in those voids.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Yuan, for that quick update. Next, my report is I'm really happy to announce that we're going to be in person really soon. So once we have that meeting date, we'll go ahead and give that update. I also want to thank everyone in the district, teachers, counselors, MFTs, custodians, our police officers, our cabinet, everyone in our district-wide. Thank you so much for a great school year. Also to my colleagues, thank you for sitting on the seat, passing policy that really is student-centered. I know we've done a lot for our district and for our students. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for working as a collaborative and making positive changes in our school district. And also Dr. Scavarna for all your hard work and dedication you put. Lastly, I just want to talk about our fallen officers that we lost in, I believe, El Monte, correct? If I'm not mistaken. My heart goes out to their families, our communities, if we can adjourn in honor of them. And then lastly, Dr. Scavarna, do you have any updates?
Yes, ma'am. I very happy to make sure that all of our grads enjoy the moment, and the schools have worked very hard during an incredibly difficult year. Very proud of our ability to get negotiations done with our unions. We're really, really proud of the class size reduction efforts for next year, and substantially lower than before. A comment was made tonight. I met this week with the new chief of police for Montebello and his captains. Comment was made tonight that I'm attending a forum that Montebello is having with their police chief and their fire chief. I am not attending that. I have met with the chief of police from Montebello and have asked him, and am going to meet with the Bell Gardens folks and asking them for representatives, sergeants, whoever they can give me to do these individual site walks so that I can personally do the site walks. Look at the keying situation, look at the intercom situations and all that, along with our facilities people and an architect, so we can deal with the DSA issues. As that unfolds, there'll be many meetings with the police chief for Montebello, enlisting their assistance in this whole matter. I completely agree with everybody that these sites need to be looked at, and it's top priority for me this summer. I'm going to be helping out as much as I can personally, getting involved in it. Another thing, we went through a complete financial conversion with the county office this year, and it was an awful lot of work. So thanks for all the work on the budget. That went really, really, really well. It's very complicated. And the governor got a budget from the state assembly, and it's or I should say, it's a budget that reflects the assembly's comments and their priorities. But I actually believe, from listening to everybody, that there's going to be some changes and revisions to that. I believe that to be all good for Montebello, and there'll be a lot more to follow in updates to our community from the board on this safety and security issue. Is going to be a big thing this summer. So rest assured. And I think it was somebody that put this out on social media. I was not even consulted by the folks at Montebello about this meeting. I think somebody just put it on social media. But rest assured that we're interacting with every agency that we can to make sure these schools are safe, and they will be safe. And we're tackling the air conditioning, we're tackling the roofing, we're tackling the cleanliness, we're helping to improve everywhere we can. Is it perfect? No. Will it be substantially better for the start of school next year? Absolutely. Thank you very much. Once again, comments to go back around. Congratulations to our grads, our wonderful teachers, our wonderful classified, and our wonderful students. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Scavarna. At this time, I'd like to have a motion and a second to recess into closed session.
Motion?
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, Vice President Ramirez,
Aye.
Clerk Cabrera,
Aye.
Board Member Magaña,
Aye.
Board Member Uribe,
Aye.
and an aye for me as well. That motion is carried. We'll go ahead and recess into closed session. Okay, I would like to reconvene this meeting at 9:05 PM. I would like to call to order and see who is present. Vice President Ramirez,
Hi, present.
Clerk Cabrera,
Present.
Board Member Magana,
Present.
Board Member Uribe,
Present.
and I'm present as well. Legal counsel, can you please provide the closed session report out?
Yes, thank you, President Gutierrez. We convened into closed session at 8:25 PM with closed session discussions commencing at 8:26. The following persons were present via video conference: President Gutierrez, Vice President Ramirez, Clerk Cabrera, Board Member Magana, Board Member Uribe, Legal Counsel Copado, Dr. Scavarna, Dr. Ewing, Mr. Ellingson, and Mr. McGuire. At 8:28 PM, Mr. Ellingson and Dr. Ewan exited closed session. As to item A1, as listed in the closed session agenda, members of the board were briefed and were provided with an update. No final action was taken on this matter, nothing further to report. Closed session discussions concluded at 9:03 PM, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, legal counsel. It is now 9:06 PM. And then I would like to motion to adjourn this meeting in honor and memory of the city of Almonte, Corporal Michael Paredes, and Officer Joseph Santana. Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Can I have a roll call vote? Vice President Ramirez?
Aye.
Clerk Cabrera?
Aye.
Board Member Magana?
Aye.
Board Member Uribe?
Aye.
And an aye for me as well. That motion is carried. Our next regular scheduled meeting is Wednesday, July 20, 2022 at 6 PM. Thank you so much and have a great night.
Good night.
Good night.
Everyone.
Good night, everyone.